Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the October 17th Stanley County Board of Commissioners meeting. Appreciate you all being here. Got a good-sized crowd for a small agenda in the meeting. Thank you all for that. I see we have two signed up for public comments. We will get to those in the very, very near future. I would like to start tonight with the invocation and pledge of allegiance from Commissioner Mike Barbie.
Let's all bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, help guide us tonight in the businesses of the county. Please look after all the first responders, police, law enforcement, and also our soldiers overseas. Please guide and direct us in everything we do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Barbie, fellow commissioners, for being here tonight. You guys have seen the agenda. If there are no modifications, I will gladly accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion by Vice Chairman Allman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Eford. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings me to my next item, which I should have done probably prior. Can I seek a motion to excuse Commissioner Lane Furr? He's preparing tonight for his wedding. We have a motion by Vice Chairman, it's going to be that way all night now, apparently. Vice Chairman Allman. A second by Commissioner Shudo. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Commissioner Furr is excused. We were a 6-member board tonight. Public comments. We have 2 signed up. I'm going to take you guys in the order that you appear. Miss Amy Furr. Come up, state your name, your address, and try to keep it to 3 minutes, please.
No worries there. Thank you for having me. My name is Amy Furr. I'm at 636 Faith Street in Oakboro. And I'm actually here to introduce myself this evening. On your agenda is the appointment to the Consolidated Human Services Board. I wanted to put a face with a name for some of you who do not know me. I am a 17-year resident of Stanley County. My children have gone to school here. I have a vested interest in this county. I have 2 degrees in human services, with one of those being a concentration in substance abuse. I have worked for the city of Locust for the last 12 years as their city clerk. I care about Stanley County, and I care about what happens here in Stanley County. And I just wanted to introduce myself. Even if you choose to not appoint me this evening, no worries. I'm just getting my feet wet. You will see my face and my name again. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry. Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Miss Patty Crump. I should say Commissioner-elect Patty Crump.
Thank you. Hello there, gentlemen. How you doing? I just wanted to take some time as I'm preparing for my new role, doing some research, and I went to the Health and Human Services Board meeting the other night, and one of the things that they discussed was the fact that they're about to make some appointments, and I know you're going to vote on those 3 seats that are available today. I was very surprised by the time we got to the end of the meeting that no one had read a single application. I was shocked by that because 3 recommendations were actually made, and Jan Louder asked everyone if they would like to read the applications and vet the people, and no one took her up on it. And so there were 2 people that are on the board currently that they just decided to go ahead and let them roll on again for another term without looking at the applications. And then there's 1 other seat that's available, and someone who is on the board made a recommendation verbally, spoke highly of her friend, and said she'd like to be on the board. And then someone else recommended her, and everyone unanimously said okay. At the end, I had an opportunity to ask a question, and I said, well, are we going to look at the other applications? These people took time. Are we going to vet them and pick the right person? And Jan Louder did say it doesn't really matter because whatever they say, y'all are going to be the ones that read those applications and you will be making that decision. So I know traditionally I have heard that you would make a decision based on the recommendation of the board because of course you would want to respect their opinion. But I need you to understand, and I know Mr. Eford, you know, because you were there and you saw all this go down. And you were there, you might have left about that time. But I did want you to be completely aware that no one on the health board, except possibly Jan Louder, had read any of the applications when they made the recommendation to you. And that's a shame. And I hope that moving forward, the board will take that role much more seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crump. And just as a comment to that, it's not really a fault, well, I guess it's a fault comment. No, you're right. On a board like that, when they do, I know how hard they work for some of those appointments, the doctor position, the psychiatrist, that kind of stuff. You know, when it comes to a board that has slots for the general public, a lot of times it's, quite frankly, I'll use the word fatigued because they work so hard to even get slots filled and people don't show any interest. So I can't speak for them, but from our perspective tonight, for me personally, I do like the fact that we have multiple candidates for boards lately. I've worked very hard these last few years to get people to put their names in, and we're starting to see that results. Now we're starting to get 4, 5, and 6, and 8 names where we used to get 1. So I do like that. That is a good thing, and you're right. It is this board's job to dig into that, but it should also be the nominating board's job as well. The next item for tonight, item number 2, is going to be the Consolidated Human Services Board appointments item, and a presenter is going to be Director Jenkins.
Good evening, Chairman Jordan, Commissioners. I'm presenting to you tonight based on board's meeting that was just spoken or alluded to earlier. 2 recommendations for reappointment and 1 new position. I'll start with the reappointment. Ms. Diane Robinson, the Human Services Board is recommending reappointment for a 4-year term. She actually finished a term from a previous board member that stepped down, so she's been in this role for about 1.5 years. This is a consumer position. That's Ms. Diane Robinson. Recommendation from the board for a reappointment for that role. Also have a Ms. Nancy Smoke. She is looking to have a reappointment as well for a 2nd term. She was actually served 1 year when the board was newly created, I guess back in 2018, and she's fulfilled her 4-year term, and she's actually looking to be reappointed for another 4-year term, which would be her 2nd, which would be the limit for that as well. And then the new appointment recommendation from the Human Services Board was Ms. Shawana Long for a 4-year term. Again, another consumer position for the board. Should be taking the place of Miss Elizabeth Teal, who now has a new baby and chose to stay at home and no longer serve on the board. All these terms expire on November 6th. So. And those are the recommendations. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you, Director Jenkins. First, please extend our congratulations to Ms. Teal. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. In relation to the comment that Commissioner-elect Crump made, I've been on, in my role as commissioner and in my role on multiple boards, as well as these other commissioners, a lot of times nominations do come up. I know we know about them as commissioners. Does the board as a whole normally get a copy of applicants as they file their name?
Yes,
I don't think they do.
Well, we have in the past. This last time, it was decided between, the board chair, we had like 3 new applicants. We've had some of these applications on file for 2 or 3 years, and
right.
They don't go away, but they have been shared in the past with all the Human Services Board members. This time, I know there was a couple of new addition to that, but previously they have been discussed over the years and in the meetings. So.
I know that, and
And keep in mind, we have a 20-member board, it's probably the largest board in the county, and we can have up to 23 people. So.
right. And I don't think we've ever actually filled that board, have we?
Not to my knowledge, not to
And
maximum.
yourself, the chairman, and myself, we managed to put about 4 more seats in there in the last couple of years, but
That's correct.
I don't think it's ever actually been totally full. Do you, commissioners, have any questions for Director Jenkins?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Commissioner Lawhon?
Is this a paid board?
Yes, sir. They receive.
What do they get paid?
I want to say it's like $34 a month.
$34 a month? It's not by the hour, it's by the month. Which one?
$34 a month. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else from commissioners? Thank you, Director Jenkins. Commissioners, this is an actionable item tonight, and the way we've got this, we have 3 slots, so I'm going to do this and just take nominations for each slot in order as they're listed on the paper if anybody has any objections. Okay, hearing none, I'd like a list of nominations for the slot that is currently held by Diane Robinson, that'll be a 4-year slot beginning November 6th.
I nominate Diane Robinson.
We have a nomination for Diane Robinson. Do you have anyone else?
I nominate Amy.
Okay, we have, with that, Amy Furr, is that the right one? One nomination for Diane Robinson, one nomination for Amy Furr. Keep in mind, just for those in the public so you know, because you're doing these one at a time, a name can't appear more than once. Let me be clear. Amy Furr, Commissioner Shudo?
It's-
There we go, thank you.
So, yeah.
I was like, now that he said that, I was like, I remember Amy Meacham, but okay, gotcha. So they are one and the same. Hearing no further nominations, we'll close nominations for that seat. We're going to do this by show of hands. All in favor of Diane Robinson, please raise your hand. 2, 3. I'm torn on that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. That has 4. All in favor of Amy Furr, raise your hands. 1. I love Miss Diane too, but I'll wait for that one. 2. 4 to 2. That nomination goes to Diane Robinson. So Diane Robinson is reappointed for a 4-year term beginning on November 6th, 2022. The next open slot is for Nancy Smoke's seat. That is another 4-year term beginning November 6, 2022 till November 2026. We're going to take nominations for that seat.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Amy Furr.
Amy Furr. Thank you for that, Commissioner. Do you have any more nominations for that seat? Hearing none, I will close nominations. I would call this a foregone conclusion, but because I'm not sure how Robert's Rules wants that, I will say all in favor of Miss Amy Furr, raise your right hand. Record shows 6-6. All opposed? Well, it can't be opposed. Congratulations, Ms. Furr. Welcome to the Board of Health and Human Services. And for the third seat, this is a vacant slot that is being vacated by Ms. Teal. I'll take nominations for that seat.
I'd like to nominate Shawana Long.
We have a nomination for Shawana Long by Commissioner Shudo.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Teresa Lanier.
We have a nomination for Teresa Lanier. By Commissioner Lawhon. Bear with me, I'm taking notes. Any more nominations? Okay. We will close nominations. By show of hands, how many vote for Ms. Shawana Long? You have 2. How many for Teresa Lanier? 1, 2, 3, 4. That is all votes accounted for. Is Teresa here tonight by chance? I don't see her. All right, well, congratulations to Ms. Lanier. To those that didn't win a seat on that board, or any board yet, I encourage you, please keep putting your name out there. These boards are important. I know Ms. Tyler and I worked with the IT department earlier, last year, to change the nomination process so you can pick what 3 boards that you want to be on. If you didn't get the board that you want, contact the clerk and tell her, hey, I didn't get board of health, but I'd truly like to be on the JCPC board or the airport board. Let us know that you're still interested, because a lot of names come up, they file their name, and we never hear from them again, so we're not really sure how dedicated they are towards that board. So, thank you guys for your vote tonight. Congratulations to those 3. That is Diane Robinson, Amy Furr, and Teresa Lanier, our 3 new appointees for the Consolidated Board of Health. Next item on tonight's agenda, Public Safety Data Systems, the RFP Award. This is going to be Chad Coble and Kyle.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We thank you all for your time tonight. We're going to go through a quick presentation, give you an update on where we are with the replacement of the public safety data system and the requested next step in this process. As we've mentioned before in some of our previous presentations, this system that we use, the computer-aided dispatch system, the records management system, and the jail management system, was installed in the late 1990s. This system has undergone several upgrades to increase the functionalities and features that it can provide. And the founding company, which was OSSI, was a local company out of High Point. They have basically been bought out 4 different times since our original procurement. Moving to different companies, some employees that were originally there are still there, but most have went along their way. As such, the level of support that we're receiving and the increased functionality and development has ceased to exist. This software package is used on a daily basis by every public safety agency in the county. It makes it a very highly used system. It also makes it very important.
Yeah, I mean, the reasons for replacement are long. Obviously, we, for the sake of brevity, won't get into all of those tonight. So we wanted to touch on some of the high-level ones. The current system we have, all the modules, CAD, RMS, JMS, is built using legacy coding techniques, coding languages, and dated system architectures. And these issues pose a lot of challenges: difficulty in securing the system, difficulty in upgrades, difficulty in repairing and receiving customer support, and ubiquitous access, being able to serve the application out to multiple agencies and do it in a secure way. And I think maybe to elaborate on this point a little bit, because I think it's important, and if you're non-technical, that probably doesn't mean anything to you, but one of the biggest challenges that any software solutions developer faces these days is remaining current as technology and time advances. If you think back prior to the mid-1880s, skyscrapers were built using all masonry pillars and structures for structural support. Then along comes steel, right? Now you got, it opens up a whole lot of doors, a whole lot of opportunities, things you can't do with masonry structures. And I think that's a good way to maybe conceptualize, some of the software challenges that we see today. Yeah, you can add new windows to a masonry structure. You can put awnings on it. You can maybe paint it or change the facade. But at the end of the day, you're extremely limited with what you can do with that masonry structure. Whereas an advancement comes along, like steel or something, and it opens all kinds of doors and opportunities. And I think that's a good way to maybe visualize the inner workings and the foundational support of a software system. And it's hard to do that without completely rewriting a system. And that's where a lot of issues come into play and where a lot of these legacy systems pose great challenges. As Kyle mentioned, the multiple acquisitions over the years, and we'll touch on that again here shortly, has created a gap in customer support, and that gap seems to widen as time goes on, and the quality of that support has steadily declined over the years. And even simple issues may take weeks or months to resolve. And I don't know if each one of you had an opportunity yet to read the letter from Chief Shue from Locust, but he actually was testifying to a real-world example in that and some of the difficulties they're facing along those lines.
So the background of this process, so in the late 2019, key stakeholders, a lot of the folks that are sitting in the back of the room today, identified the need to begin discussions on replacing the CAD, RMS, and JMS. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, we took part in several on-site, virtual, and off-site demonstrations of various products. In total, 7 different softwares were demoed and evaluated. Multiple off-site visits to different counties across North Carolina, even one in Georgia, were made to determine what these agencies thought about these systems and not just the vendors themselves. A lot of feedback from the agencies that are using them day in and day out was taken into consideration. Throughout the demonstration process, key features, functionalities, and best practices were identified and compared of each of these 7 systems. In August of this year, we issued a request for proposal to basically anyone that wanted to respond.
Just kind of go over that process. You guys are probably very familiar with the formal bidding process that is allowed in North Carolina statutes for procuring apparatus supplier materials. But there is a different procurement method when you're talking about IT equipment and related services and maintenances, training and things like that. So we elected to use that route. It gives us much more flexibility in selecting a vendor, which allows us to select them based on overall value or fit. So we used that process. The deadline to submit these responses to the RFP was September 21st. The county received 3 total responses from that request, and the responses were reviewed by stakeholders and scored based on the criteria set forth in the RFP document.
The handout that was in the agenda packet, on the first page of that, it outlines the different criteria we used. 10% was designated for their vendor's response, the quality of the response, and the understanding of what we were looking for. 40% was the vendor's ability to meet the requirements and functionalities that we set forth and the stakeholder group determined was very important. 30% went to the overall stability and ability and capacity of the vendor to perform the replacement. 15 was the total cost of ownership, and then 5% was the offeror's ability to provide a complete and concise response. Also on that same handout, you have the scoring of the 3 vendors, noting that Southern Software ranked 58 out of 100%. Central Square, which is also our current vendor that we are experiencing such degraded support with, came in at 63, and Hexagon came in at 86%.
And just as a side note, most of the criteria for that scoring is actually outlined in statute as well. So just a little bit into why Hexagon. They've got 30 years of proven experience serving public safety agencies of all sizes with a single platform. Most software vendors today, as they try to scale, they have different platform versions. If you're a smaller agency or whatnot, they'll sell you this particular version of their software. And as you scale up to try to deal with larger agencies and the issues they will deal with, they have a different version of their software. One of the issues that we really ran into and really came to light during the review of the RFPs is just the ownership of the companies themselves. We actually asked in the process to disclose the last 10 years of acquisitions, mergers or whatever, and why. And we won't get into it, but just a quick snippet of the response given by Central Square, which is our current company. It kind of reads like the lineage of Jesus in Genesis, but such and such beget such and such and such and such beget such and such. So I certainly won't read that verbatim, but I did highlight there, excuse me, and I apologize for having a piece of candy in my mouth, but ever since I got COVID a couple months ago, if I do much talking, I'll get a tickle in my throat. But to bring to your attention the highlighted area there, Vista Equity Partners Management LLC and Bain Capital. I don't know what ratio they own, but they are owned by a venture capital. And, you know, nothing necessarily wrong or right about that, but we have noticed over the years that when a company is owned, or at least somewhat owned by venture capital, they always only care about the bottom line. It makes a difference. And just a real quick on the snippet from Hexagon, obviously not going to read all that, but basically they've acquired one company. They've also had a great deal of experience and effort put into designing from the ground up a multi-agency, multi-PSAP, multi-discipline, multi-jurisdiction, and multi-application public safety solutions. Their ability to be customized and adapted without much effort to handle the complexity of the configurations and response plans of multi-agency, multidiscipline solutions, which is something that we really, really lack right now.
Hexagon's also a stable solution. None of their products that they offer a wide range of products, not just to public safety, have been end-of-lifed. That is something that we've heard through the grapevine. It's the writing on the wall that what we are currently using is headed towards that path. They won't come out and say that, but you know, no longer up for future development. Terms like that is concerning when laws change, reporting requirements change, and things of that nature, when you're thinking, all right, how are we going to run this report that's required by the state? Hexagon seems to be very capable of handling crisis situations with massive spikes in call volume. Some of the incidents that they referenced when speaking to us was the response to Hurricane Irma in 2017, the El Paso and Aurora shootings in 2019, and the recent wildfires in Sonoma County. They were able to upskill that system in those jurisdictions to maintain operations. Based on the empirical evidence, they also continually work to improve security. They are starting the process for ISO 20017 and 18, as well as SOC 2, and Chad could speak much more clearly about that than I can.
Yeah, this is actually really, really critical these days. This is a whole different world we live in right now as far as IT and security and ability to protect systems and secure systems and maintain the service level that we need to maintain, especially in a public safety arena. I've had either the fortunate or unfortunate ability to serve on a strike team for my association, which is part of a greater organization called the JCTF, the Joint Cybersecurity Task Force at the state level. We respond to cyber events that happen throughout the state, and in the past 4 years, I've responded to over 55, or we have responded to over 55 events at multiple jurisdictions, multiple type agencies, and have learned a tremendous amount about securing systems, what the current threat landscape is out there, and also how a lot of vendors are just unwilling to play ball when it comes to working with their customers and trying to secure systems. I'm going to get to it in just a little bit. I think it's on the next slide, but vendors are just now, and we as a group are trying to put pressure on vendors, but a lot of them just don't care. But some of them will play ball, and Hexagon actually demonstrated a willingness during this process to set up a virtual demo environment and apply the security frameworks that we requested and that we apply to our systems to see if it would break anything, because it breaks a lot of things. And if it did, they were going to be willing to work through it. So without a whole lot of detail there, they really went above and beyond to try to make sure that our security frameworks and our security posturing was going to be applied to this system as well.
With Hexagon, there's, as they say, no more future version implementation costs or heavy lift upgrades. We would receive twice yearly updates and critical updates that are monthly. Right now, you could wait a year for an upgrade from our current vendor, and every upgrade seems to break something. Right? A feature that was working perfectly fine on Monday, when we had the update Monday afternoon, by Tuesday morning, fire departments aren't getting their pages. And it's, you call them and it's say, hey, this is a problem, we need you to fix it. Well, we'll put that in for version 14 when we upgrade that in 3 or 4 months, if we get that far that quick. Simple things like that, where we're finding workarounds, leads back to that writing on the wall of they're going to no longer support our product, is the way it seems. Hexagon, the on-call software, provides deployment options. Same software, no version procurement or training costs to move to the cloud. So right now we would recommend that we go to an on-premise based system, and then in the future, if we feel the need or the backup system to that be in the cloud, there's a way to transition to that without much difficulty.
But one of the advantages of their system is that it is the exact same software platform, whether you are on premise or you shift it over to the cloud. There is no change, there is no learning curve, there is no difference.
Also with Hexagon, you have the custom rules engine, which speaks to that flexibility and customization that we will be able to do. Certain fields that one police department may need on a report, whereas the other does not, would allow us to do that with the custom rules engine. Same thing for response plans for fire departments, move-ups, demand utilization on trucks. The EMS system would be able to help us with that. On-call also provides agencies with the ability to meet the needs of many different communities as well as their workflows. So at Albemarle Police, they may have one workflow of how a report gets approved, whereas at the Sheriff's Office, it may have a completely different workflow of who it needs to go through. With that, it allows us to have that customization per the agency. All of the municipality police departments, the Sheriff's Office, utilize the system for their NIBRS reporting. And as such, each one may need different customization. The system, as I mentioned, is highly configurable and doesn't require additional cost. With our current system, they will be more than happy to do it for us for a nice sum of money. With this, Chatter I would be able to do it without assistance from the vendor. It's also HTML5, which is a modern web application programming language and doesn't require a thick client.
Yet I know that's, again, somewhat of an esoteric term if you're not technically inclined, but basically that is the most modern web-based programming language that is out there right now. Hexagon seems to have put a great deal of effort and energy into designing with this system with purpose and making sure that it is very ubiquitous through that HTML5 language. And that means a lot, not only from a deployment and an operational perspective, because it makes our job a lot easier in IT, because we don't have to deploy thick clients out to machines. It's just a web page. All you need is a browser, and you can hit it. It also allows us to do away with VPNs, which is what we've been doing for a long time. That is a virtual private network where the officer or the agency, the satellite agency, is connecting back to our network. Well, that makes a firm network connection, and those are things that we're trying to get away from now from a security perspective. So that is actually a big deal.
Since you mentioned that, Chad, before I forget, I had some notes for later, but since we're going to do away with VPN and we're looking at an on-premise HTML5 through, I'm assuming, a web server locally, it's user-based permission, so it's not cloud hosted, it's locally hosted, still cloud accessible.
That is correct. It will be locally hosted. The system will be isolated and segmented, and we will put web application firewalls in front of those interfaces just so that they're all protected.
Backup on-site or cloud?
Either. That is going to be part of the negotiation process. They allow for both. And there's backup and there's also replication. So there's kind of two sets there. It will be replicated over to the alt site, but then there will also be a backup as well.
What's the delay in the replication?
It's synchronous. They allow for synchronous or asynchronous, but we also synchronously replicate at the SAN level as well, but they also do synchronization at the software level, and it's synchronous.
And to take the geek out of that, if somebody drove a tank through the 911 center and knocked that server down and it was dead and destroyed, up to about 30 seconds ago, everything that had been done could now be fired up at the backup center. And all data is secretly preserved in real time. So you may have lost one keystroke transaction, that's it. The rest of it's still live. That's awesome. Thank you. Keep going, sorry.
Hexagon was the only company that responded that met all required general expectations as outlined in Section 12. Additionally, the solution was designed and built from the ground up. There was no, let me take this piece of software and combine it with this piece of software and take this code and rob it from here to put it here. It was the ground up using modern software architecture and coding techniques. The system that has been in place for 20 plus years, we believe the product offered by Hexagon will serve us well in the years to come. I don't want to be back up here in 5 years or 10 or even 15 asking for another CAD, because I can tell you the replacement of a CAD, RMS, and JMS is
A massive undertaking.
Yes. It will require the coordination with every municipality, the fire departments, sheriff's office, the jail, the communication center, and none of these services can be cut off for a week to say, hey, we're replacing our system. We'll be back with you next week. We've got to do it where there is no loss in service to the citizens. So the recommendation from staff is based on the information gathered through the RFP process, the subsequent review of the proposals and scoring, combined with stakeholders' feedback and the knowledge obtained from the last 2.5 years of demonstrations, off-site visits, and research, is to enter into contract negotiations with Hexagon.
And just a quick comment of clarification here, because I think the wording on your agenda item up there is a little bit confusing, because the title actually said RFP award, and also down in the requested action, something along those lines as well. We are not awarding the contract tonight. We are actually scheduled to come back before you. I think it's October the 7th. However, that's probably going to get pushed forward. November 7th, excuse me. However, that's probably going to get pushed forward because our original schedule also had us ending contract negotiations this Friday, October 21st. So that's probably going to get pushed forward a little bit. However, tonight we are just asking to go into contract negotiations with Hexagon. We will be back before you at some later date to actually award the contract.
We will be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Let me hit a few before I open up to my fellow board members. One, thank you guys for how you presented that. That's a lot of geeky material. And I finally get to be Commissioner Lawhana in the room, because normally he's PhD levels deep in financials, and I'm lost. Now you're speaking my language. To take some of the geek out of this for both the public who may have questions later, who may be in the room, and for my fellow commissioners who don't work in this field. CAD, RMS, JMS, that's computer aided dispatch. Records management system, and if I'm not mistaken, jail management system.
Yes.
That is every phone call, if I'm wrong here, correct me. Every phone call that comes into 911, every keystroke a dispatcher sends to a computer, to a phone, every GPS coordinate sent to a radio, every jail inmate assigned to a bed, every fire call, EMS, everything goes into the RMS. It's all dispatched and coordinated geographically on a map by CAD and resource allocated by CAD. And depending on how that goes, it later is managed by JMS in the jail. So this is everything they do. This is the Tyler, the Andy, the entire staff. This is their version of their entire support system, from EMTs in the field to chiefs in fire trucks to sheriffs responding to calls or deputies to task force coordinations. This runs their business, for lack of a better word. Did I miss anything there?
I mean, we could stay here all night talking about what it would do, but I mean, you get the highlights.
You did mention that the criteria for selecting this was outlined in statute, and thank you for bringing that up, because that means that the criteria was not crafted with the idea of a vendor in mind.
That is correct, and that is the 135.9, 143.135.9.
CG is
Yes, is the one that is the best value procurement method, and those criteria are outlined there. You can add to it if you want, but those are outlined.
I don't have any more questions. Fellow commissioners?
I do. What kind of life expectancy will this system have?
As Kyle was just saying, this is not something you want to do once every 15 to 20 years. And that's why it's so critical now to choose a system looking forward, because you don't want to be in a migration process. And there's some vendors that we looked at, they are in the process, and it is on their roadmap to get to the point of redesigning their system and re-architecting their systems. And that's great, but we need a solution today. And if you pull the trigger with one of those, then you're going to be in a migration down the road about 5 years. Even though it's with the same vendor and there wouldn't be a cost, there is obviously a logistical, a technical, and a huge burden from that standpoint. You're essentially going through a migration again down the road. So we will, that all those were calculated into our thought process when looking at all this, along with many other things. Again, we could talk all night long about the ramifications in the process and all the things we've looked at, but it's been extensive.
Have you talked with any other counties that
Yes, so
Hexagon? what kind of relationship they've had?
So Manatee County, Florida, Garland, Texas, Lincoln County, North Carolina, and Lee County, Florida are all using this system. They have several others that are in the same phase we are. A lot of counties that are around us right now using the system we have are also in the process. We're just a little bit further ahead of them. Lincoln County is currently in the production and spin-up phase of their deployment. They have a good relationship. Last time I talked to them, I talked to Lee County, Florida, not long after they deployed the system, and they had rave reviews of it. Their dispatchers, their police officers, everyone was able to have a seamless migration. Of course, there's going to be hiccups, but the hiccups, I'd prefer they happen before we deploy it. And the folks that use it on a daily basis, they have a seamless transition from one to another, so they don't, sit on the side of the road trying to type a report for 3 hours and have issues. They were able to easily learn it and operate it, and they didn't have many negative things to say about the transition.
Where located?
They are out of, I want to say, Alabama.
Yes, their
Yes.
main headquarters for the United States is Alabama.
Is there a local location?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, they have, how they'll do it is they have basically a customer representative that we would have monthly meetings with once the project is completed, the implementation phase, and we would stay in contact with them.
Have you had input from all your fire departments, all your police departments? Are they comfortable with this? I mean,
Yes.
when you're making a big decision like this, we sure don't need some fire departments coming in and saying, oh, they shouldn't have never done this.
Absolutely, and we have, as much as we possibly could, included all of the stakeholders, including local PDs, local fire departments. We've got some representation here tonight in support of that as well, because you're right, it is critical, and this does not only affect us, it affects every municipality out there. I think as we plan to convene another meeting of the stakeholders before we actually pull the trigger on this thing and award the bid and say, all right, guys, here's it. Forever hold your peace. Speak now, forever hold your peace. What do we, any thoughts, any comments, whatever, and we can take that information into the contract negotiation process as well, and make any tweaks that we need. But you are correct, and I feel like we have.
Most every police department took part in the multiple demonstrations. They all ranked Hexagon very highly. The local fire departments were involved and included. Most of them do not have mobile data terminals in their vehicles. We've deployed those in a few in the stations, Albemarle Fire being the primary one that has those, as well as West Stanley. But this would also give other fire departments easier access going to a system like this, where chiefs could have an app on their phone to see notes of the call before they get there, and things of that nature. They could also see premise information maps, whereas with the system we currently have, we're unable to facilitate that for the fire chiefs.
This question might be for Andy. The current system we have, is it depreciated off completely?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost 30 years old. Yeah,
There's no longer on our books.
It's older than the vice chairman.
He's aging fast. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you mentioned it's coded in HTML5, which is fantastic. That's going to make it browser responsive, MDM responsive, iPhone, tablet, Android, doesn't matter, Google, Windows, Mac, Linux. It is cheap to deploy to people that can't currently get it. What is the architecture of your current system? ODBC, SQL?
Yes, it is. The core programming language is Fox Pro.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
They quit teaching that before I went to college.
Yeah, exactly. It is a combination of SQL and DBase 4.
Okay.
And the thick clients are all served from shares on the network.
Which I know is a security nightmare for
It's
you.
a security nightmare for us.
You can stop with Fox Pro. They quit teaching that when I went to college in '96.
And again, and that's why, because for non-technical people, that means nothing to them. So that's, why I wanted to build up that architectural reference so you guys can, have a visual and a concept
The
in your
programming
mind.
language it was written in went out before the VCR.
That is correct.
Okay. That That's
You know, and you
like-
can't change that core, you know, just like with the masonry building, you can't change the core. You can bolt on, and they've bolt on, you know, all they could over the years. And, you know, it's just reached its end of life for the task at hand.
Thank you. Commissioner Barbie?
Yes, I know with this current system being as old as it is, you guys couldn't foresee all the problems that was going to develop in it. And I trust and hope you guys have researched this enough and make sure that we don't have any of the same issues with this company and everything. And don't let Tommy fool you. He started smoke signals, so don't.
I think every customer we've talked to that Hexagon services, they've given rave reviews on the support and the ability for Hexagon to work with you, which is something we will gladly look forward to.
Commissioner Everett?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the selection of Hexagon Safety as the selected vendor of the computer-aided dispatch and record management selection system replacement, and authorize staff to begin contract negotiations for this project.
I'm going to second myself before somebody beats me to it. We have a motion by Commissioner Eford, and I'm going to be the second on that. Any further discussion, Commissioner?
Chairman, I do have a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
When it shows giving the staff authority to negotiate the project, the only thing I'm going to tell you is work on that price.
We are.
Yeah.
Tell them they're 2 times higher than everybody else.
Absolutely, and that is one of the main goals.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you all.
Congratulations, Mr. Kyle. Thank you, and thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Next item on this evening's agenda, the design build general contractor approval. County Manager Lucas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The county is the fiduciary agent for the funding that the state appropriated to Stanley County on behalf of the North Carolina National Guard and the North Carolina Department of Insurance for the new North Carolina Emergency Management Training Center that'll be out in the airport area, actually be spread across 3 different sites out there. The county received 8 responses to the RFQ for a design build general contractor for the state-funded North Carolina Emergency Training Center project. After reviewing each firm's qualifications, key staff experience, local project experience, proposed delivery method, understanding of the project objectives, experience with the design build projects, et cetera, the project selection committee, which included folks from the Department of Insurance, the county, some outside consultants from fire departments that do rescue training, as well as the Air National Guard, is recommending Barnhill Contracting Company, its building division is headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina, be engaged as the design build general contractor for the project. Barnhill will enter into a due diligence contract with the county to program, value engineer, and prepare an initial design and cost estimate for the proposed facilities. Once complete, the county will amend the contract with guaranteed maximum price contracts for the construction of the various facilities consistent with the grant funding available for the project. No county dollars are involved in this project. It's all state funded, and we're just the money's flowing through us. So the recommendation this evening is to consider and approve Barnhill as the design build general contractor for the proposed North Carolina Emergency Management Training Center project and authorize staff to negotiate and execute a due diligence contract.
Thank you, County Manager Lucas. Questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Make a motion, Vice Chairman Almond.
make a motion to approve Barnhill's design build general contractor for the proposed North Carolina Emergency Management Training Center project and authorize staff to negotiate and execute a due diligence contract.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chairman Almond, a second by Commissioner Lawhon. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Gentlemen, the next thing is the consent agenda. You've all had a chance to review it? Did I? Oh, I did. My apologies, gracious. Look, I'm sorry. The next presentation is, the next agenda item is breast cancer awareness month proclamation, and that's Commissioner Eford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly appreciate it. I wear pink tonight. I don't know. I know we have some more that's wearing pink. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's very important to me. My sister is a 2-time survivor I have a sister-in-law that is a survivor of breast cancer. Cancer affects us all, everybody in this room. One way or another, cancer affects us all. I got a good friend of mine just came out of surgery last week and is fighting cancer. So I have a proclamation here that I'd like to read, and hopefully I can get the commissioner's approval and support. Proclamation in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month 2022. This proclamation recognizes the courage of those who have fought, are fighting, and will fight breast cancer in their lifetime. It also honors those who have lost their lives to this disease. For these individuals and for their loved ones who gave themselves unending support through the most trying times, Stanley County Commissioners commit itself to raising breast cancer awareness in our community. Whereas the Stanley County Board of Commissioners is committed to raising awareness about breast cancer and the impact it has on our loved ones, friends, colleagues, and community members. And whereas thousands of women and men in our country take to the fight against breast cancer each year. And whereas screening and early detection can make a tremendous difference in overcoming breast cancer. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Stanley County Board of Commissioners acknowledge the importance of raising awareness for breast cancer in our community as we work to support survivors, those currently battling breast cancer, and those who might detect it at early stages. And be it further resolved, the Stanley County Board of Commissioners recognizes October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Stanley County, North Carolina. Hopefully adopted this 17th day of October of 2022.
Thank you, Commissioner Ediford. Would you like to make the nomination?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a quick comment. This one hit home in my household this past month. My mom's struggling with breast cancer right now, and she's got surgery coming up on the 27th. So you guys be in prayer for her.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. We've lost people in my family to it. I don't think there's anyone that has not.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the attached proclamation.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ediford.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Lawhorn. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion happily passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. You guys have all seen that by now. If there's no problems with it, I would like to seek a motion to approve it as presented.
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Ediford, second by Commissioner Shudo. Any further discussion? That's what I meant. Commissioner Lawhorn, second by Commissioner. I'm just trying to keep you on your toes, Ms. Tyler. That's why we have the YouTube. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I'm going to start down at the right, I think, this time with Commissioner Lawhorn. Commissioner's comments.
I do have a comment about two West Stanley High School young ladies that play golf. They were recognized this past Wednesday, as all conference for ladies golfing. And one of the young ladies' name is Lily Whitten. And I went and watched the golf match, and man, these girls can outdrive me by 50, 60 yards. And I'm proud to say my granddaughter, Sadie Lawhorn, made all conference in golf. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawhorn. Vice Chairman Almond.
Two quick things. I had the senior meeting this past Thursday, and Pam does a great job over there. Just want to give her a shout out. She recently took a large group of our seniors to Alaska, and it got interesting. They all came back with COVID. Also, I talked with Commissioner Burr earlier, and he told me he wasn't going to be at today's meeting. And I was at a vow renewal ceremony this past weekend, and the preacher had a little joke. He said, you know, when you get married, there's three rings. He says, first there's the engagement ring, and then there's the wedding ring, followed by the supper ring.
And that was the last time we saw Commissioner Almond. I know his wife. Commissioner Shudo.
Yeah, basically, I just want to know if we could maybe reach out to the school board to set up a facilities meeting for those of y'all that don't know the commissioners, we have a facilities committee. It's me, Tommy, and is it Scott now? Scott now. And we put this together like almost 2 years ago. And the only time we actually met was remember when they needed us to approve the grant requests, and then we were supposed to meet a few weeks ago, and they kind of canceled it at the last minute, and it's like, I don't know why. But I got these figures from Andy. Thank you for putting these together, Andy. Back in 2014-15, they did got a demographer, Mr. McKibben, to do projections. And they projected back in 2014-15 that attendance was gonna drop, then it was gonna bounce up a little bit and drop. And just to let you know, back when he did those projections, he projected that that this year we would have had 8,512 students, and we actually had 8,592 students, so he was 80 off from 10 years out. So that shows the importance of using data. And, when I looked at these figures, and I still think I couldn't believe it was 10 years ago. It seemed like just yesterday we had those discussions. And I'm thinking, how much time have we wasted not making tough decisions? Because it seems like, and I may be wrong, but it seems like they've been just popping Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids on these facilities. And that sometimes we got to make decisions whether it's going to build new schools or do whatever, but we can't continue to just keep putting expensive Band-Aids on these things. And I know, I can't remember the exact figures, but we talked about the cost of a high school back 10 years ago. And my God, what the cost of it is now is just incredible. So, we just can't keep kicking the can down the road. And I'd like to really talk to them about just having a conversation with them, not for us to tell them what to do or anything, but to kind of just have a conversation to start making decisions. And I can tell you one thing about schools, is so emotional where people make decisions. That's why I like when you use outside groups like McKibben and stuff like that to help with these types of, decisions that might have to be made down the road. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Shudo. Commissioner Barbie.
Yeah, if we do meet with the school board, like Peter said, I think it should be both full boards, to be more out in the open instead of just a committee. And like Mr. Lawhorn said, I got a shout out too. I got a granddaughter that helped coach West Stanley softball this year, and unexpectedly she got the Easton National Fast Pitch Coaches Association Assistant Coach of the Year. That's a lot of saying, but I got it in there. But I want to congratulate her. Thank you.
You just look like you're chomping at the bit. What if I just skip you entirely? Commissioner Eford.
A couple things. I know Chad's already gone, but Kyle, when you mentioned things about how they were built in the 1800s, I would have to refer to Commissioner Lawhon and Commissioner Barbie, because they were the only two that was here when that.
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
This weekend, there's going to be an event in Locust, Socket to Breast Cancer. It's going to be a 5K walk/fun run. It'll be again Sunday, October 23rd. Registration is at 1:30. The walk fun run is at 2. It's going to be at 186 Ray Kennedy there at City Hall in honor of City of Locust employee and breast cancer survivor Mandy Thomas. If you've ever called the City Hall, Mandy's probably answered the phone. And for all those who have fought and are currently fighting breast cancer, and all the proceeds go to Cindy's Hope Chest. It's an organization that helps with breast cancer with money and all kinds of things. The team with the best socks / outfit will win a prize. That's the reason it's Socket to Cancer. And I would hope you guys would come out. Amy and Emily sort of got this thing together. But that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Eford. We did a thing a couple years back. My wife's mother, Sylvia, had breast cancer, and so it hit home for us too. And we did a fundraiser to raise money, and it was, for $100, I'll dye my mustache. For $500, we'll dye so-and-so. And I was going to say you should offer to dye your hair, but I mean, I'll give you $10 to put on a wig. But, yeah, well, you can't dye your hair. I mean, that's not a challenge that you can do. But I tell you what, if, I would do that again, where, if you get a check for $500, I'll come to my next meeting with it bright pink. All of it. We'll just make it all pink.
I'm sure we can raise it.
Thank you guys for your input tonight. Thank you, public, for showing up tonight. I don't have anything big from my boards. We had the Board of Health meeting last week. Everybody kind of knows the outcome of that. I do thank the Board of Health for doing the best they could with two contentious topics. We have a tobacco policy that they had to work on to secure federal funding, and we have the mask policy that they're mandated to work with. I think they threaded the needle of doing what they need to do, and yet at the same time making the county employees and people happy with the results. So that was not an easy thing to do, and Director Jenkins is not here for me to thank him personally. He left. But that's it for me. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Lawhon, second by Vice Chairman Almond. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are out.